Before we begin, if you value food history that connects battlefield survival, soil regeneration, and practical growing knowledge that still works today, you might want to subscribe to the Husbandry channel. What follows is not a trend or a novelty crop. It's a plant that fed ancient armies, rebuilt exhausted land, and quietly shaped the rise of civilizations. When ancient warriors marched, they didn't carry luxury food. No, they carried crops that could be grown close to camp, harvested quickly, and eaten without elaborate preparation. One crop appears again and again in military records from Rome, Greece, Persia, and the Near East. That crop was the fava bean, also known as the broad bean. It fueled soldiers and restored fields damaged by overuse, grazing and war. Its power lay not only in nutrition, but in how it repaired the soil beneath their feet. Why did ancient armies depend on fava beans for strength and endurance? Well, Roman legionaries were issued rations built around grain and legumes, and fava beans were central to that system. They were calorie-dense, rich in protein, and stored well when dried. Greek hoplites ate them boiled or ground into paste. Persian forces cultivated them near supply routes because they grew in cool weather and tolerated poor soils. This was not coincidence. Warriors needed food that sustained muscle, prevented hunger, and could be grown repeatedly without exhausting land already trampled by men and animals. You know, fava beans rebuild soil faster than most crops ever could. Fava beans belong to a group of plants called nitrogen-fixing legumes. Their roots, well, they host beneficial bacteria that pull nitrogen from the air and store it in the soil. This is not just surface improvement, mind you. It is structural restoration. Fields planted with fava beans show measurable increases in soil nitrogen within a single growing season. Ancient farmers, they noticed this effect long before science named it. They rotated beans into worn-out land because, well, yields improved the following year without manure or fallowing. Why did warriors value crops that repaired land as much as fed bodies? Armies devastate landscapes, you see. Grazing animals strip vegetation. Camps compact soil. Repeated harvests drain nutrients. Ancient commanders, they understood that food production had to keep pace with destruction. Fava beans allowed land to recover while still producing calories. After a campaign, fields planted with beans could support cereals again the following season. This kept supply lines short and populations fed. How the plant itself was adapted to harsh, disturbed environments. Fava beans germinate in cool soil and grow aggressively in early spring when many crops struggle. Their thick stems resist wind. Their roots penetrate compacted ground and break it apart. This made them ideal for marginal fields, trampled ground near camps, and regions recovering from conflict. They did not demand perfection. They improved what they were given. Well, ancient growers, you see, had a clever way of planting fava beans to get the most out of their soil. Historical farming texts, you know, describe some really straightforward methods. Seeds were planted just deep enough to stay moist, but not so deep that they couldn't pop up quickly. Spacing was kept quite wide, which allowed for good airflow and plenty of room for the roots to spread out. Fields were only lightly weeded. not turned over again and again. After the harvest, stems and roots were, more often than not, left right in the ground, or just shallowly mixed in. This meant all that stored nitrogen stayed put, enriching the soil for the next crop, which is a rather smart move, if you ask me. So, how can modern growers use this age-old system today? Well, whether you're a home grower or a small-scale farmer, you can use fava beans as a soil repair crop. Just plant them in early spring or fall, depending on your climate, and let them grow until they start flowering for the best nitrogen fixation. If you're after food, go ahead and harvest the pods, but leave those roots in place. If fixing the soil is your main aim, simply cut the plants at the base and let the roots break down underground. It's simple, really, and just as effective now as it was back then. Within just one season, the soil structure really starts to improve. Organic matter increases, and the following crops, well, they tend to show much stronger growth. Now, you might wonder why this crop actually outperforms those modern soil additives. Synthetic fertilizers, they only add nutrients for a short while. But fava beans, they go a step further and rebuild biological systems. They feed the microbes, help improve root pathways, and boost long-term fertility. That's why ancient farmers, you see, preferred this approach. It meant they didn't have to rely so much on outside inputs. These days, modern survivalists and regenerative growers value fava beans for the very same reason. It works just fine without factories, without fuel, or any complicated supply chains. Now, let's consider how this crop bridged food, warfare, and sustainability. The very same bean that nourished soldiers on the march also sustained civilians back home. It stabilized entire food systems during times of conflict and, well, during recovery too. Armies could move and fight without stripping the land beyond repair, you see. Honestly, that delicate balance between consumption and restoration, that's the reason it endured for thousands of years. Why does this ancient knowledge matter now, you might ask? Well, soils today are facing exhaustion from monocropping and, heavy chemical dependency. Fava beans offer a proven alternative, one grounded in history rather than just theory. They restore land while feeding people, exactly as they did for ancient warriors, and that's something we ought to remember. If you value knowledge that links history, husbandry, and real-world resilience, do subscribe to Husbandry. Share this guide with others who care about sustainable food systems and help keep these ancient practices alive for the future. Will you?